Welcome to Area Fellowships. I'm saddened that we have to do our Area Fellowships virtually this year, but that's the way this year's been. And I'm grateful that we can gather in any way, even if we have to do our Area Fellowships virtually. Thanks for being a part of this, and thanks for caring about your area fellowship and making those connections. So I'm so grateful we can do this together, and we've got some great discussion coming today. So thanks for being a part. And host, we're so grateful that you could host this and take care of your group. You're a blessing to our church, and you're a blessing to this group. Now, let's jump into our study for today. Now, I don't want to alarm you, but there are a few biblical passages we've not concerned ourselves with, especially lately. You start in Romans 16:16. Greet one another with a holy kiss. All the churches of Christ greet you. 1 Corinthians 16:20. All the brethren greet you. Greet one another with a holy kiss. 2 Corinthians 13:12. Greet one another with a holy kiss. 1 Thessalonians 5:26. Greet all the brethren with a holy kiss. I think you're getting the picture here. Even Peter compels us in 1 Peter 5:14. Greet one another with a kiss of love. Peace be to you, all who are in Christ. Now, we haven't been doing that for the last 6 months. No greeting or kissing. And we're worse for it. We miss it. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not saying that I want all of you to come kiss me on the way out of worship Sunday. But what these texts do is that they remind us that warm, heartfelt greetings matter. So much so that our greeting of one another in a loving manner is an act of obedience to God. For ancient Christians, that love was shown in a kiss. For us, it's usually a hug or a handshake. It's interesting that those kinds of gestures change, though, through time and by geography. In New Zealand, there's a traditional greeting of rubbing your noses together. In Tibet, there are some who stick out their tongue to prove that they're not an evil person. Some Europeans kiss. And we gravitate towards the traditional handshake, which is thought to have been a physical way to show that you are weaponless and we're offering an open hand in peace. Sadly, we've been unable to do any of that for the last 6 months. I miss being able to hug you. I miss walking through the congregation and shaking hands across the aisles. But our present circumstances dictate that we need to be cautious to protect one another. And so we'll be diligent in our protocols during the pandemic, and we'll pray that we're able to live out these texts, these kissing texts, soon enough. Now, until then, until we can get back to that where we hug and shake hands with one another, it's important to remember that we still need to remain in safe, loving contact with our church family. When Jesus was preparing his disciples for his crucifixion, one of the things that he told them was this. It's in John 13, verses 34 and 35. A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another. And you love one another as I have loved you, that you also love one another. And by this, all men will know that you're my disciples, if you have love for one another. Now, I hope that even during the pandemic, that we can find active and connecting ways to obediently live this out as Jesus Christ called us to obediently love one another. Now, I've heard it said many times lately that staying home during the pandemic and wearing a mask during this pandemic are acts of love. And to be clear, they are. These are ways that you can love your fellow believers by not exposing them to germs that you've been exposed to. See, separation, social distancing, and masks are loving acts right now. But in those kinds of loving gestures, like wearing a mask or not being able to be in the same home together, we get disconnected and we lose touch with one another. And hopefully we can find more in love. Because I'm certain that there's ways that we can do both. Ways we can be lovingly cautious and ways that we can stay lovingly connected. One of the ways that's been most dear to me during this pandemic is all of your calls, your letters, and your emails. You have encouraged me through all kinds of tensions by your kind words. In fact, I want you to see today, I'm going to grab all of these. There's a whole stack here. These are letters and thank you notes and words of encouragement that you've sent to me in the last 6 months. And I want to say thank you for that. I want to say thank you for these cards and the ways that you have stayed connected in sending those and taking care of us. And through these connections, you've buoyed us. Like when there was no one else in the room to worship with us, Aaron and I needed these kinds of things. And so I want to say thank you for loving me in this way. Thank you for connecting with us in this way. Thanks for loving our staff in this way. We needed those notes, and God would send them at just the right time through you. And I hope things like this will continue, but not just for us, for the church. I'm praying that God would continue to give us wisdom and encouragement that we need to live out our love for one another in the church that connects us. We're going to have to be active and prayerful about this, to seek out ways to connect with one another. But I'm certain that God will provide all that we need. And so together, let's be creative. Let's find ways to lovingly connect and live out John 13 and love one another even as we have to remain at a distance. Now, in your group, we want you to have a conversation around this. In fact, we have 3 questions that we want you to stop and answer together, and hopefully everybody in the group will be able to answer them as we go along. So let me give you those 3 questions. The first question goes back to the introduction. Question 1, what unique greetings have you ever seen? Or what unique greetings have you been caught off guard by? Question number 2, what are some socially distanced ways we can love and connect with fellow church members? And are you willing to do them? Are you willing to obey and love? Question number 3, how is God building new connections between believers during the pandemic? Take some time and answer these 3 questions with your group.